Can video games be considered as a form of art? Well, in order to answer that, we have to ask ourselves, what is art? The dictionary defines it as the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination. This means that virtually anything that involves skill and imagination can be considered art, even that deformed stick figure horse you drew in the third grade. But what about video games? Are video games an art form like music or film? Or are they just simply a mindless escape from reality? Well, I would argue that not only should video games be considered art, but that it's an ever-changing medium that's slowly evolving into a form of high art. Video games should be considered art for the three following reasons. The first reason is because it utilizes multiple art forms. Any good movie utilizes storytelling. It's a foundation for multiple art forms such as theater and film. Storytelling creates a narrative that not only draws us in, but it also helps us learn things about ourselves. From narrative storytelling, people can learn about simple messages like don't lie, don't steal, be kind and courteous, to complex messages about what it means to be human. But this leads to a big aspect of human experience. And my second point, the power of choice. Humans can make anywhere from 3,000 up to 35,000 choices per day. In fact, heck, we make around 227 choices each day in food alone. This shows how much of an impact the power of choice has on our lives, and this is immensely reflected in video games. This shows how much of an impact the video games have on us, and if art helps us understand the human experience in a more profound way, then video games help us understand the significance of the choices that we make in our lives. This is reflected in a game called Undertale. Undertale is an indie RPG game that revolves on your choices and actions through the three different paths you can take. The three paths consist of the pacifist route, the neutral route, and the genocide route. Each path and its corresponding ending are reliant on the actions that you take throughout the game. This game reflects the choices that we make each and every day and the impact behind each of those choices. The third reason is because video games provide a mode of expression. In the gaming world, developers are the equivalent of artists. Through video games, developers convey messages and feelings through dialogue and cutscenes, as well as problems presented to the player. For example, in BioShock Infinite, the game has heavy themes and criticisms of religion, racism, and ideology. These themes are added in to not only enhance the playing experience, but to also convey the beliefs of the developers to express themselves and to make people think as the player progresses towards the end of the game. But games weren't always like this. About 30 years ago, games started off as a form of entertainment, but like other art mediums, it evolved. Each art form has its small, humble beginnings that's taken the world by storm. And for video games, it was Pong. And video games have only evolved from there. We saw video games incorporate stories and music in games like The Legend of Zelda and Super Mario Bros. And then eventually, video games started to become more lifelike with enhanced, groundbreaking graphics in games like Super Mario 64. But graphics weren't the only aspect of video games that evolved over time. Stories have evolved over time as well. Games like Final Fantasy VII have added mature themes like finding yourself, corporate corruption, and even the aspects of life and death. Games come a long way, and that's reflected in titles like The Last of Us. This game explores the human condition as it shows emotional struggles, heartbreaking relationships, and the harsh judgments that people need to make in life. Games like this show off what it means to be human, but some people don't see it that way. Critics like Roger Ebert have stated that video games never have and never will become art, since video games will never live up to the expectations of directors and creators in other mediums. But I think the opposite. My third point is that not only have games become art, but that they're slowly becoming high art. The difference between art and high art is the social concept used to describe it. High art is defined as the concept used by societies to describe art that is created by a culturally renowned artist and is not accessible to lower classes. But art and its definition have changed over the years. High art has become more obtainable, and this has been shown in a number of video games because they showcase a part of what it means to be human. Undertale has themes of choice morality. The Last of Us has themes of connection and emotional hardships. BioShock Infinite has themes of religion and violence, and the list goes on. Games have shown us the hardships of life, the tough decisions they make each day, and it's even presented thought-provoking messages and ideologies that most other memes don't usually cross. But people like Roger Ebert has every right to say that video games can't be art because of interpretation. Both art and high art allows people to have an opinion on any and all art forms, regardless of its paintings, sculpture, or even video games. Video games are created in much the same way that art is made, with a lot of thought and effort going into it. Game developers have to take it a step further because not only do they have to create a fun and enjoyable game that looks aesthetically pleasing, but they also have to write a good coherent story, interesting characters, powerful themes, and tones that match up to the characters and stories, on top of animating it all, creating fitting music, and making sure that enough people buy the game just to break even. Then after the game is released, many companies and websites give their thoughts and opinions on each game in a similar fashion to movies and film. And like all pieces of art, everyone has a different point of view, since each playthrough will yield different experiences and results. A game that really got me thinking about this topic was a small indie game called Journey. Many people, myself included, hold Journey as a masterpiece for telling a story without any dialogue, as you embark on a quest to get to the top of a mountain. This game got amazing reviews and critical praise from the gaming community, but its biggest achievement is being the first video game to be nominated for a major award. During the 55th Annual Grammy Awards in 2013, Austin Wintour, the composer for Journey's soundtrack, had made history for being nominated in the Best Score Soundtrack for Visual Media category. He was competing against Howard Leslie Shore, Hans Zimmer, John Williams, and Ludovic Dvorsay. While Journey didn't win an award, it proves that video games have the potential to make just as much of an impact as major motion pictures that made hundreds of millions of dollars. In conclusion, even though video games started out as a form of entertainment, it's evolved into a form of art that's pushed the boundaries of its medium. So next time you see your best friend playing video games for days on end, don't immediately judge them. They could be engaging in a beautiful form of art. Unless it's Call of Duty, then you should shun them for it.